Hi, welcome to That Reminds Me Of, a podcast about film and the films that remind us of that film. You're here with Baron and the Doc.
And the Maestro.
Do we need another drink?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. We're recording.
Yes, we are.
Baron, how are you, mate?
Good, Doc. How are you?
I think I'm okay.
You're right?
Yeah, all things considered, I think I'm in good form.
Good. There's plenty going on in the world.
Isn't there?
In the world and in our world.
Oh, yeah. Isn't work just hectic?
It's just gone next level on us.
Yeah.
Everything's happening all at once.
Next level. But I'm approaching this little session as we initially envisaged. Do you know when we started this whole nonsense?
What, 2 years ago
2
and
years
58 episodes ago?
58?
Yeah, today's
Okay.
58.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was just the fact that we were talking about films and then we just record and enjoying talking about film.
Yeah.
And then we just started recording ourselves for, giggles.
Great. Yes.
I feel I've had a busy couple of weeks and I've just been looking forward to having a chat with you. And I don't care if the cameras are running or not.
I agree.
I just want to have a, 45 minutes of therapy.
That's why we got into this.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about, really.
That's exactly what it's all about. So I don't care at audience. Look, I love yous,
Yeah.
but, this is more about us.
This is two dudes talking about films just because they like it.
It's exactly what it is. Can I ask look, do we want to even talk about what we're doing? I haven't been doing much other than work, but do you have anything to tell me?
No,
No?
not really. Nothing that we haven't already talked about.
Okay.
I'm happy this time to just get straight into the film.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with a question.
Okay.
Would you still recognize me if I was wearing a Batman mask?
Well, yes.
Yes.
I think I would.
Therein lies the problem with Batman in all his iterations.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that he swans around with a mask on and then everyone can't work out that it's actually Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Isn't that the problem with almost all of these superhero situations?
Well, think Superman.
Superman's the worst.
He's not even wearing a mask.
That's the worst.
It's just Clark Kent without his glasses.
The fact that anyone thought that was ever going to pass and then it did is amazing to me.
Yeah, anyway.
That suspension of disbelief.
That's what you do though, don't you?
That's what it all is.
Mm.
And the fact that you can get away with that level of he's just wearing some glasses. They're not even like shades. They're not big shades. They're literally just horn rim glasses or whatever those things are called. And that's enough.
He looks exactly the same. He's
Exactly.
the same sexy Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Reeve or Reeves?
Reeves? I don't know. It's a great question.
No, yeah, it's a good question. Should have done the research on that.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know we were going to end up here.
No. I didn't. That was ad lib.
Yeah. But, Batman's probably more disguised than most.
Yeah.
And still, you can generally kind of tell what's going on there, right?
Well, you can tell if it's Val Kilmer. You can tell. You can pick those lips a miles away.
And of course, if it's Batman, you've got so little acting-wise to play with.
You don't.
They need to have a cool mouth. Like, that's part of it. It needs to be a chiseled jaw, very square chin, lips of interest of some sort. Like, you got to be able to offer something here.
Yeah.
And all of them have had that.
Yeah.
I would say that Pattinson. Oh no, I've done it again.
I think it's Pattinson.
Pattinson, thank you.
Yeah.
I think he probably has the weakest chin and jawline
whoa.
of all of the Batmans we've had so far.
Slow down.
Okay.
Slow down and let's first introduce the fact that today on episode whatever it is,
58. Yep.
we are talking about The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson and Lenny's daughter.
Yep, Zoe.
And a host of others. Apparently Colin Farrell's in it. You could have fooled me.
The most makeup on a person possible since any one of the Winston Churchill films, I suppose.
That's true. Lithgow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good reference. Okay, should have left that till the end.
I know. I actually didn't really think about that one until now, but you're right. You could not recognize him at all. He was more difficult to recognize than Batman.
Well, we're jumping around, but let's deal with Colin Farrell because I knew he was in the film, but
I didn't.
you didn't?
The whole time I was like, who is this? is this a young Robert De Niro somehow transported from the past into this film and then with sort of fat man makeup on? That was the vibe I was getting from him.
I just thought he was some sort of C-grade actor who had been elevated sort of late career into this, notable role. Yeah. And I thought he was great. I've always loved Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
He's a favourite.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have picked him in a million years.
Nope.
I want to watch it again because I through the movie, not for 1 second was I thinking Colin Farrell.
Yeah, interesting. I wasn't either. I was wondering the whole time who it was. I knew there was somebody younger underneath that makeup, younger and skinnier, but I just couldn't figure out at all who we were looking at. Interesting. So that was an interesting surprise. Jeffrey Wright, always great. We're getting into cast now. Turturro, always great.
Always great.
I enjoyed him. Paul Dano, always great. Who else we got? Andy Serkis, Peter Skarsgård. And then, right at the very end, my boy, Barry Keoghan.
He is your boy.
Yeah.
You said, what was he in? Eternals?
He was in Eternals.
And Green Knight.
The Green Knight.
And a few things.
Yes, and every time I see him, I think this guy is a star. When's he going to explode? And he's there. He's there bubbling away. I think a lot of directors have recognized how cool he is. He just hasn't had his big moment yet. It's going to come. It has to come.
He's like the kettle on the fire that you can hear bubbling, but it hasn't started whistling yet.
Yeah, you got it.
You know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to go far. He's just got something. He's got something. It's great. He kind of reminds, like I said before, a young Edgerton is what I get from him.
Yeah. How do we bring any sort of structure to this conversation? Because I think there's so much to talk about, and like the $1 million question is what we thought about the film.
Yes.
I don't know if we start there or not, but how would you like to structure the Batman conversation?
Okay. Right, let's go back to the beginning. The Batman. What is the Batman about? I will read the crappy IMDb synopsis. We will discuss, and then we'll get into what we thought about the film. Should we do that?
There's an actual synopsis about the Bat. Okay.
Well, whatever, the one-liner, yeah?
You do it.
Okay. When the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering young political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. Kind of happens. That's what happens.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's one of the stronger.
Yeah, it doesn't mention he teams up with Catwoman.
No.
But
they've only got a certain number of words to play with, don't they?
That's true.
And this is 3 hours. So to get 3 hours into 30 words is pretty hard.
Yeah, I agree. I think that basically covers it.
Solid effort.
Yeah.
IMDb.
Good work this time. Whoever wrote... See, IMDb synopses are just written by whoever is in the production company that has that job of like writing the IMDb synopsis, like whoever that person is for each one.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my credit for IMDb.
Yeah, they've got nothing to do with it. But this is this particular person, whoever was involved in this DC Batman thing, did an okay job this time. Good work.
Well, the main person involved, of course, is Matt Reeves.
Yes.
And maybe that's a good place to start. What do you know of Matt Reeves?
Nothing. Like, I don't know the name, but I looked him up and I saw the second and the third Planet of the Apes films and I thought they were solid. I thought the first one was better than the second and third, but the second and third were good follow-ups. What else has he done? Let Me In, the remake of Don't Let Me In.
I think I've seen Don't Let Me In. Is that where's that from? That was made elsewhere, wasn't it?
Yeah, in somewhere
else
in Northern Europe. I'm not even going to guess which of those sort of Scandinavian countries it's from.
I think I saw that at a festival and I think I loved it, and I think Matt Reeves probably loved it too. But I haven't seen his version.
I think I've seen both. And I think they're both good. I think he did a solid job. The original's better, but he did a solid job. And then what was the other one? Cloverfield.
Well, let me talk about Cloverfield for 1 second, because Cloverfield reminded me of you. Yes.
Was that
have
Creatures
you seen Cloverfield?
in Dark Places? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really reminiscent. Like, it came first, but still, for me, it came second, of your dino film Evie, because the treatment of the monster in Cloverfield, like it's a great film for starters, and done on I believe a relative shoestring, but the monster is kind of introduced piecemeal. You see bits of it here and there, and it builds up to a view of the monster that's quite, you see it in all its glory later in the film. But I could imagine what had gone into that whole process and how big a deal it would have been about when you see the monster and how much of the monster and how important it is. And that really reminded me of your journey on Evie.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And it was well executed, as was yours.
Thank you, man. Similar approaches, I think, definitely. And that film probably was in the back of my mind to some degree as another good reference for that kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Haven't got a lot of money. You want monsters. You want to keep them in the dark so you don't see too much. You want to keep that suspense and tension going for as long as possible and then have a big reveal at some point.
And they've still got to look decent.
Yes. The reveal has to be big. For all that sort of, it has to pay off all of that suspense and tension you've been building, but you don't want to then destroy it all. You don't want to like blow it all out of the water. You got to keep some still. You got to keep something up your sleeve.
Yeah.
You got to keep people coming back for more. Yeah, it's a good point.
So you and Matt Reeves, man.
Well, yeah.
Brothers in arms.
Yeah, right. I think he's got a solid catalogue of films, and I think this is his best by far.
So now we're getting to the meaty part of the conversation. Yeah. I really wanted to know what you thought of it, and it sounds like you loved it.
Okay. First off, before we get into whether we loved it or not, I think it's worthwhile discussing what were your impressions from the trailer before you went in, right? You just saw, okay, there's another Batman film coming out. It's called The Batman. There's this trailer. And, things happen in it. Am I excited about this film? Does it look good? What were your thoughts?
That's a great question with an ordinary answer because I didn't see the trailer.
Oh, you missed the trailer.
I missed the trailer. I don't typically, I'm not a connoisseur of trailers.
Yeah.
But it's the question still stands as far as what I went into the film thinking.
Your emotional journey.
My emotional
heading in.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a ripe question because last episode was Macbeth, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And I think surely, I can't remember, but surely we discussed the fact that Macbeth and Shakespeare have been overdone.
Right.
Maybe not overdone, but done
a million,
over and over
times.
and over.
Yeah.
Like Batman is in that vein. Like it's the Macbeth of popular culture.
It is.
Yeah.
And actually, you changed my mind a little bit about that because I've always thought, just by talking about the fact that Shakespeare has been done a gazillion times in many, many formats and ways, it just made me realize that this is not a new thing. This has been happening forever.
Oh, we've been revisiting and retelling.
Yeah, and like not just retelling the same stories in the way of like, well, there's only 7 stories and we keep retelling them or whatever however you want to look at it. But actually like Macbeth has been, those specific stories, those specific characters have been retold over and over again. And I was looking down on this whole Spider-Man, Batman phenomenon that we've been going through and thinking this is the most ridiculous shit ever. Like, why do we keep revisiting these things? And then you mentioned Shakespeare. I was like, well, okay, touche, I think, to some degree.
I think it's as you get older, you rack up more years.
Yeah.
And, you not everyone, like the kids of today haven't necessarily seen Chris Nolan's versions or let alone bloody Tim Burton's, let alone the 60s.
Right.
Let alone the comics.
Yep.
And
the comics there's new spins on Batman with the comics as well. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I've never got into the comics. Like I had a couple when I was a kid, but not to the point that I knew what they were all about really. But the Batman though, let's talk about as opposed to just Batman. That's a cool little thing, isn't it? Like, and that harks back to the comics for me.
I think so. Yeah, and also, I think interesting. interestingly, in this whole, DC universe thing, where we've got, like, just 2 seconds ago, Ben Affleck running around in a Batman suit alongside Aquaman and the Flash and all these other characters and Wonder Woman, that we've got a new Batman film where the director has made a conscious choice to say, let's leave all those characters out of this story. Like, I don't want to do that thing. Like, great, cool, do the DC universe thing, but this is separate. We're doing a new one. It's going to be completely separate.
I believe this Batman is kind of meant to open up a new universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like we're introducing the Riddler and the Joker and everything. It feels like it's starting again.
Yeah, it's starting again. It's a complete reboot, and with a new take on the world and the way it looks and feels, and we can get into that. I guess the reason I asked the question about the trailer is
that's where we started.
That's where we started. Is that I saw the trailer and I was immediately turned off. I just didn't.
Really?
I just did not expect anything good to become of this film at all.
For what turned you off? What were the little?
Well, it felt
things?
very Nolan-esque. Like the whole thing felt from the trailer like we were getting into basically a new take on Nolan's Batman.
Yeah.
And it was to do with the emphasis on the vehicle and the grunginess of the world and the dark grittiness of it. Like it just from the trailer, and there were specific moments in the trailer, like moments from the Penguin car chase that just felt so much like the scenes that we had seen with the trucks exploding and flipping and the vehicle in the Nolan films. It just seemed like we were treading the same ground.
Yeah.
And it didn't inspire me at all. I thought this is a disaster. But then I started hearing all these positive things about the film from other people, which I tried to ignore, and went to see the film, and that was a whole different thing.
Well, I think we had different run-ups to it, but the overall going in impression was the same.
Right.
I was thinking, what's the point? Like I've seen a million Batmans already.
Yeah.
Feels like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And what is the point of this film? And there better damn well be a point of difference that I can latch onto and enjoy.
I agree.
And I think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it went for 3 hours. That's an obstacle, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I'd almost say loved it. I think there's a couple of pockets that I can be critical of, but for the most part, it's a win.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing about the critical pockets. Pockets of criticism.
Did you have any? Maybe we don't even deal with them yet. Let's deal with the good parts first.
Yeah, good parts
I want
first.
a little sneak peek of whether you had any.
Nothing major, no. I think mostly it all worked for me. I mean, I think one of the issues that I have in general with these films, and particularly Batman films, is that it's very difficult for any of the characters to really sing in these films. And it's just because the world is so overbearing. Yeah. The whole Batman Gotham City thing is just so, I don't even know how to explain it really. It's like such a character in itself, and just the way it's all approached. Yeah. That the people don't feel real in some way.
Well, yeah, but look, I'd almost say in this version of it that was a bit of the triumph that
I agree.
Many of the people do feel real.
And I don't. Well, okay.
Well, maybe you don't agree, but you take, I don't know, any other version of Batman and they're hyper real and they're superheroes. I know Nolan is grittier and Burton is comic book, but they're still larger than life.
Yeah.
This one felt like it's grounded in reality. I think I wrote somewhere in my notes, I wrote realism. When you see, putting his mask, for example, you can see the stitches in his mask. So it's clearly a homemade mask.
Yeah.
And the Batmobile is just a pretty ordinary muscle car, and it's on planks of wood as a, what do you call it when a car's elevated on like in the mechanic shop.
Oh yeah.
With just some random cover over it.
Yeah.
Nothing is it's not. We're very far removed from what's his name, Iron Man type of territory.
That is true.
Gritty and human and real, and that made it good for me.
Yeah, I sort of took that as being its own flavor of comic book though style. You know, like it felt so gritty and so like a world on the brink of self-destruction that it became comic book to me in its approach. It was like it was like a dark graphic novel. That's what the whole film felt like to me, which I loved.
Yeah.
But I still felt like all of the actors can't really peek through that very easily. I think they were all solid and they did their part perfectly for what this is. But I come out of these films going, I've seen all of these actors do better or be better in other films.
Have you seen much of Zoe Kravitz?
Yeah, I'm sure. I just can't think of what I've seen her in.
Me either.
Off the top of my head.
I know
I've seen her in stuff.
I thought she was great.
Yeah, she was probably the most interesting character in there for me.
Yeah. But I like Robert Pattinson too. And he, he gets mixed emotions from me. I haven't seen an episode of Twilight, so I don't know the origin story of Robert Pattinson. But I've seen him since, and sometimes he's just bloody awesome.
Yeah.
In The Lighthouse that we've reviewed, he was awesome.
Yeah.
And in the other one we did, what was it called?
Oh,
the Devil All the Time.
One. Yeah.
I thought he was awful.
Yeah.
So he's gone from awesome to awful in two different films. In this film, I thought he was really well cast. I thought he brought that emo sort of vulnerability to the character. And opposite to what you thought, I thought his jawline and his mouth and everything you see physically was quite striking. And I thought there were some great shots that really emphasised the physicality of his face and his jaw that looked more Batman than I think any of the previous ones I've seen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess my image of Batman is somebody who's been working out and fighting and stuff more, just has a body and a face that looks a bit more like a UFC fighter or something. That's what I would imagine a Batman to be. You know what I mean?
But that's the sort of the hero
I know
version.
What you mean.
But this Batman is vulnerable, man.
He is.
And he's human and he's on a journey and he's learning, he's changing. He's a round character rather than a flat one.
Yeah.
Very much so, actually. Like you can see him, making decisions about his life and his direction in real time somehow.
Yeah. The thing is though, right, Batman, okay, we're just getting into nitty-gritties here, nitty-gritty details, but it's a little bit like my problem with Wonder Woman. It's like
there's several problems with Wonder Woman.
It's just like if you're going to put an actor in one of these characters, like where every day they're getting a beating, they're probably giving out the beatings most of the time, but that's physical still. And for them just to be underdeveloped muscularly and to just not look like they've taken a beating ever bothers me.
Okay, so you love the film, but you are a little bit bothered by the believability of the Batman figure.
Oh, I think I'm just saying it's a minor thing. But when I looked at him in there, I was like, Pattinson in as Batman, it's a stretch for me. But I went with it. The film's great.
It was in theory for me, but he won me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so I think we're both generally saying good film.
Positive.
And we both went in a little skeptical. I was actually not just a little bit pleasantly surprised. I was very pleasantly surprised. I had a great time watching this film. It's just, I think what it is that you've got so many of the elements in here are just on point, and there's so much creativity that's gone into reimagining this world in a way that feels fresh Even though at the same time as it feeling fresh, I could see so many references that were pouring into this that it just, I think it was one of the cinema experiences that I've had of recent years where I just felt like I was watching something new that felt like it was an exciting cinema film,
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm very happy you said that because I wasn't sure what you'd think. But it just felt like something new. And I think what fed into that was that I really didn't think I would see something new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it had notes of Chris Nolan stuff, I guess, because,
Big time.
the move from Tim Burton to Nolan was dramatic.
Yeah.
And the move from Nolan to Reeves is not as big, but it's still quite distinct, and it's a very different place that we're in.
Yeah. I think I think so. My first reminds me of would have to be Nolan's vision for Batman. It's just so in there. But you can
changed
also,
the game, really.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It changed the game for a lot of superhero films to follow. I think that they, particularly ones that wanted to take a darker, more more of a realistic take on the world, and but then you can also see a bit of Tim Burton's Batman in there as well. Like there are elements of both playing in there.
Did you see with the one of the scenes early on with all the Jokers? With all the that felt like a nod to Nolan in some respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that could have those characters and that scene could have lived in Nolan's film, I think, or one of those films. It could have easily. Yeah, it was, and just certain takes on the Penguin car chase scene where things are on fire. Like I was saying before, that felt like so much like Nolan to me. Did
you enjoy that car chase? I'm not a car chase guy, but I kind of liked it.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
I liked it too. This is the thing about this film is that I can see elements of so many other films in there, and I can see that Matt Reeves is a huge film buff and he's been collecting all these references, which we all do, but you can almost see the mood board.
You can.
For this film. On the wall, all of his references, you can see them in there.
Yeah.
And I actually love that. I think it's great.
No, I do too. And for a show that's called That Reminds Me Of, I had no problem coming up with films that it reminded me of. Like I'll miss a million of them.
Me too. I think I've forgotten half of them. But in the cinema, I was like, the whole way through.
Which is fun, yeah?
Yeah,
like
it is fun.
It feels like you're in a universe of film of people that understand it. And
100%.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, loads of them. I mean, that scene you were just talking about with the kids with all the makeup on, I can't remember the name of the band, but there's an amazing music video that has boys with like similar makeup going crazy in it, and it reminded me of that. Like, so straight away I'm thinking, oh, he's seen that music video, and it just feels like that moment. Of course, it reminded me of Nolan. It reminded me of the Joker. Like, so there's so much going on.
And a bit like that Glazer short film, remember the one, The Fall, I think it's called.
Yep.
Where all the
the with
people,
the masks,
with all the masks.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what
it's called. The Fall.
The Fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Obscure,
but a good one.
I've got a page worth of notes here, so I don't know where to start, but I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Well, no. Let me talk about another remind me of, because mine are all sort of mixed in.
Okay, go for it.
So one of the things that I felt was really strongly in here was that he had taken the comic book, the graphic novel world of probably a whole variety of graphic novels, and had really imbued that into this film. This one, to me, felt more like a graphic novel than I think any of the other superhero films that I've seen for a long time. But what it reminded me of is the first time I saw Sin City.
I knew you were going to say Sin City.
Yeah?
Wow.
Awesome. Because it did. It felt fresh in that way.
Yeah.
That when you first saw Sin City, you were like, I know I'm looking at a graphic novel that's been turned into a film because it's all there.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole vision has been realized in cinema. And this felt like that. I think he mentions, let me see if I've got it here. Yes, he was inspired by Darwin Cook's 2000 comic book, Batman, Ego, and Other Tales. So that's the one in particular. But of course, there's like Batman Year One, which is a famous graphic novel. Like there's a lot that delve into this really dark world of Batman and Gotham City. But I felt like you could just feel it in the cinema and I haven't seen that for a while. Sin City came to mind.
Well, Sin City, wasn't that was a moment in film, wasn't it? Because it was, like you said, it was really bringing the graphic novel to the screen.
Yeah.
Like we hadn't seen before. Like
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything like Sin City prior to it.
I thought a little bit about the 300 because that's another one.
That would have been after Sin City though, surely.
I think so, but just in terms of this film, Sin City is a much closer reference.
Yeah. The backstory of the Batman. So this is not an origin story, is it? So it's the first in a reboot.
Yeah.
But it's not his origin story. We're meeting him like, mid-flight.
I loved that.
Yeah, so did I.
I didn't need to see it again.
No.
Because we've seen it, right? We've
seen it
that
so many times, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't need to see the pearls fall on the ground another time.
No, the melodrama.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we still got the essence of it in a clever way. And I thought that was just clever filmmaking to, we saw scenarios that mirrored the backstory of the Batman, but almost see his emotional response to those in a way.
Yeah.
So it was just clever.
Yep. Totally agree. To enter the story where we did, to also, because we've had the Joker just presented to us so many times, to have the Riddler, which we've seen,
Was it Jim Carrey,
called
the Riddler?
Yeah, so
Very different.
We've both skipped over the fact that there were those couple films between Tim Burton's Batman films and Nolan's.
Well, maybe we skipped over him for a reason.
Very good reason. But yeah, Riddler was in there. And that's fine. We can let that go.
Was Riddler in those? Who was the Riddler in those films?
So, there was, I'm trying to remember exactly how it all works, but there was, so there was Batman and Batman Returns by Nolan, Tim Burton. And then there was the one with Schwarzenegger and the one with Jim Carrey.
And that's when it went off the tracks.
Yeah, those were and Robin and I believe Halle Berry was Catwoman in one of those as well. It just got a bit crazy, and those weren't Tim Burton. I can't remember who made them, but
but they were still in the Tim Burton universe.
Yeah, yes and no, because we didn't have Michael Keaton anymore. We had Val Kilmer and George Clooney.
That's right.
So I don't know what you call those two.
Yeah. Anathema.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But they felt similar. They were done in a similar kind of whatever. They were more inspired by the 60s stuff than by the graphic novels.
Yeah, but, so that whole series, which started with just Batman, that was quite a moment in cinema for me.
Yeah.
Personally. It was, and I'd known Batman as the 60s thing. Then all of a sudden it felt edgy at the time. And it might have been because of the Prince soundtrack.
Yeah, right.
Were you conscious at this sort of time in the world?
Well, see, the thing is, I haven't seen those films for so long.
No, me either.
And I don't know if I was even aware of the Prince soundtrack at the time.
Yeah,
honestly.
It was probably the first time that I'd seen the crossover of film and music because Prince had this album that just had the big bat symbol on it, and I was just a kid.
That's insane.
But
isn't it?
it was overwhelming in popular culture.
Was this early 90s or is that?
No, it
is
would
this
have
where
been well before early 90s, I think.
Really? Where are we?
Because I was
right now?
I was a youngster.
Okay, so late 80s.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm not sure. We'll fact check that.
Yeah.
We don't have the Maestro here today to do that
Where
for
is
us.
the
in real
Maestro?
time.
He's not here today. He's
on
the road.
location.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the Tim Burton series was spellbinding in its way.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. You can see little elements of it in here. Some of the more comic, what's the right way to put it? There are some caricatures and there are some over the top elements to the world that are in this film as well.
What are they?
Well, I think you could say the Penguin's a pretty like full on character. He doesn't seem quite of this world. He's a little bit cartoony.
I would say though, in comparison, like the penguin I remember is from the 60s.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a penguin since, but
yeah, there was one in those couple films.
Was there? Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But that Danny DeVito and the one prior were sort of outrageous.
Yeah.
This one seemed to be at least an attempt to make him a real person. Like he even had a real sort of role in society. He's a sort of 2IC to some crime boss.
Right.
So he was a more real character than previous.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. He just had sprinkles of outrageousness.
Yeah. The only thing he didn't have was any resemblance at all to Colin Farrell.
That's true. That's true. Just for a moment, do you want to talk about some of the craft in this film?
Please.
Cinematography.
There's a lot
music,
to talk about there.
Set design, costume, like all of it.
You start and I'll run with you.
You know what? Honestly, actually, we could talk for ages. So let's not get too into detail. However, I thought it was all quite beautiful. And the score I need to go away and listen to on its own. I think I was too overwhelmed while I was watching the film by everything to take it in, but I want to go away and listen to it.
Yeah, no, I think it's too overwhelming to be able to comment about intelligently.
Yeah.
But the effect of it was great.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I think the score and the sound design were really first rate and were potentially the main thing. Like, you know, normally they don't get top billing, but I think they were one of the key things that made it a great film.
I agree. And you could say that that's a bit of a Nolan thing as well, because if you come out of his films, and I remember coming out of his Batman films, particularly The Dark Knight, just feeling like I'd been hit in the chest by the score and the sound design and completely blown away by it. So, I just feel like Matt Reeves has taken in a lot of what works in from a bunch of different films and brought them into this in such a clever way.
Well, I'll throw in what it reminds me of then.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm sure we've probably referenced this film too many times to be credible, but Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay.
I really felt Eyes Wide Shut. Early on, there was a vibe of the Batman walking the streets, and there was soundtrack that was kind of slow moving and Eyes Wide Shutty. So I just had the vibe of Eyes Wide Shut. You know that Eyes Wide Shut is very dependent on the just single notes and slowing down the tempo of things with the sound design, and that I had notes of that.
Yeah,
and then thematically, of course, we then discover that it uses that age-old cliche of all the sleazy men in the town, you know, being in on it.
Yeah.
And in some sleazy bar within a bar. So thematically it was kind of similar to Eyes Wide Shut, which I'm kind of sick of that, to be honest. But
yes. I know what you mean. That's a recurring theme.
Squid Game as well. It's like whenever the evil within many scripts is just a whole lot of middle-aged white guys.
Or like that. Who's that? What's that Jane Campion TV show? Top of the Lake.
I haven't seen it. It's meant to be good, yeah?
It's great. It's great. Whole town full of sleazy, horrible
They're all in on it.
Yeah.
Except for one cop.
Right.
One good cop.
That's right. That's right.
Who may or may not be in Westworld.
It's just, So yes, it is a recurring theme, and you go, okay, seen this before. But then like the whole Epstein stuff happens and you're like, okay, well.
Maybe it's there for a reason.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Good call. I'll give you a reminds me of that's just kept hitting me over and over again the whole way through. And that was Seven.
Ah, yeah, due to the villain?
It was the whole the Riddler and his elaborate way of exposing the underbelly of society. There was that. There were sort of the riddles and the clues themselves. And then there was the moment where you get the Batman and the Riddler meeting for the first time, and there's the whole, didn't you know her head was in the box all the time? Like, there's that kind of thing going on. Like, all of that was in there. And I could not break, it came up like, I don't know, maybe 10 times through the film where I was like, wow, this is so Seven to me right now, you know? And I would love to know, I'd love to get into Matt Reeves' head and see if that was one of the big pictures, like in the middle of his mood board, you know?
I bet it was. That was such a pivotal film too, wasn't it? It was great at the time.
Yeah, and it's got that same kind of dark, gritty, you know, what you were seeing is just the underbelly of society and how close we all are to just depravity, basically.
Yeah. What else? The length. Did the length bother you?
It did a little bit. Because 3 hours is long. It's hard to sit through anything that's 3 hours. However, I forgave it because it was all pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
It did drag it. I can't place exactly. There was a moment where I thought, you know what? I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I can probably speak to this.
It was, you could?
Well, no, you go first.
I was going to say it was definitely the second half of the second act.
Yes, correct.
Somewhere in there, I went,
Bingo.
I can feel it. But that's a lot of second halves of second acts.
Well, I think the second half of the second act was when it started to jump a few sharks as well.
Yeah.
And what I loved about it so much through the whole film, I was loving this for most of it, like really thinking all the decisions were the right decisions. And then suddenly when, you know, we had to get into the action of stuff and start resolving things, it lost me a bit. Like when they went to, what's it called, Gotham Square Garden or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when it got to there, it started to feel like the start of Wonder Woman 1984.
Right.
You know, when he went from being a real person to acting like a superhero.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to not match the rest of it. And then that part of the film both lost me in the way it was done, and I started to fatigue a bit in how long it went.
Yeah.
For example, like he very actorly jumps into the water and then saves about 5 people, you know, from like we've just had the levees of the city break and
millions of people are drowning.
And then he does this big show-offy jump into the water and literally these people they're not even in danger. They're standing there, and he just sort of says, "Oh, this way, folks."
Yeah, I agree. That was a weak moment.
It was
I agree.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the fact that I still love the film, even though it had this ridiculous moment in it.
Yeah. No, I think the whole Madison Square Garden thing was one of the weaker sections of the film for sure.
And that happened in the second act of the second.
Yeah,
second part of the second act, I think.
I guess that's
or thereabouts.
Yeah. It's. I mean, was that the climax of the film? Like, I'm just trying to remember what happened after that.
There were a few climaxes.
Yeah. Anyway, but you're right. I think that was a bit of a weak moment. And just, you know, once this whole thing descends into, you know, how many times Batman can get shot and how many things he can jump from and still get by, like it's you can get away with it a little bit, but that one did feel like we were pushing slightly.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another reminds me of.
Okay.
It's broad.
Hit me.
It
Broad.
is broad. It's more of a genre than an actual film.
Wow. Is that breaking our rules?
It's breaking rules. It's not really reminds me of. It's actually...
It's a talking point.
It's a talking point. So film noir. We have to speak about film noir, right? Because that's kind of what this whole thing is.
Yeah, it is.
I don't really have good references for this because I just don't know if I am a big aficionado of this genre. It's just not a thing that I really get into in general. But, you know, you can't probably not mention Dick Tracy, Chinatown, I don't know, some others.
Well, I'm gonna mention one of my reminds.
Oh, great! Please do.
It doesn't quite fit in, but Perry Mason. And when I say Perry Mason, I mean the
TV,
the recent TV version of Perry Mason.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was reminded of Perry Mason in the first frame. So when it says the Batman and with the titles, and it was so like it filled the screen, and it really gave me a tingle in some way, and it reminded me of the Perry Mason titles. Really have stayed with me because they're you know big and bold. I don't know if you remember them, but and that just felt different. It felt 50s. It felt noir. It felt detective.
Yes,
and that detective sort of vibe really is emphasized early in the film.
Yes,
and
even to the point of the voiceover.
Yeah,
opening the film, which, you know, just gets you right in that zone, doesn't it, straight away?
I was going to ask you about the voiceover. Did you, I think we've talked about voiceovers before.
Yep.
Some are good, some are bad. Did you dig this one?
I had no problems with it. It felt like it was a mood setter more than anything because it does come back later, but it's not really a consistent element through the story. And it felt like, again, just Matt Reeves saying, here's what we're doing, folks. We're going to paint this thing quite heavily to start with and get you in the mood. You know what you're up for and take it from there. That's what it felt like to me.
It was a nod to the genre, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and a successful one because it got us really in there.
Yeah.
And what I loved about that vibe was, and this is a combination of the physicality of the humanness of this Batman and the detective part. Like when early on he enters the crime scene. Yeah. And he's this ridiculous. He's a guy in a batsuit, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
And he's entering a real life crime scene. And what I really loved was that it's a ridiculous situation. Mm-hmm. But the characters in the film were finding it ridiculous. You've got people saying, what on earth is this guy all about? Why is he here?
Yeah.
And that mirrored what we were feeling as an audience.
It's great.
And that actually made it realistic because like you can then say, okay, well, they don't believe it, so therefore the film is believable.
Love it. Nice scripting.
Yeah, but I can still visualize that uncomfortable feeling of them, you know, looking at the body and everything and then him awkwardly with a mask and everything just standing there.
And he's an awkward character. People talk to him and he just doesn't actually know what to say half the time.
Yeah, he's awkward.
You know the way some Batman characters, you get the sense that like he's too cool to say something?
Yeah.
You with Pattinson, you feel like he doesn't know what to say sometimes.
But don't you love that? I love that.
Yeah, I loved it too. But it's such a different take. It's just like he's quiet because he legitimately doesn't actually know how to respond in this moment.
Yeah.
Because anything he says will be awkward and, you know, might give away too much so he's just being quiet.
But that's what makes him so complex a character because he's through the whole 3 hours he's always open to changing and being, you know, led into some different direction.
Yeah, you're right.
He's not some flat comic book hero.
Yeah.
The scenes I loved that were quite sexy for a superhero film with him and Zoe Kravitz. You know, some of their moments together were, you know, there were pregnant pauses there where you're thinking, okay, like, is there some chemistry here. What's he thinking? What's he going to do?
Yeah.
He's actually a human man or boy in a mask, wondering how to, with not much experience, wondering how to deal with this little sex pot that's trying to flirt with him.
That's a great, just for a second, let's just focus or talk about the fact that you start off with Zoe Kravitz's character, Selena, in a relationship with a woman. And at first my thought was, okay, we're eliminating that element from this story. We're going to, like, the writers have gone, let's simplify things here and say Selena's a lesbian. She's not going to be interested in Batman. Batman's going to know it straight away because he knows that she was with this Russian chick or whoever she was. And so you're thinking, okay, that's where we're going. Okay, cool. And then next thing you know, Selena's kind of hitting on him. And that was interesting. Another interesting choice. I actually thought that was great.
And he's not prepared for it.
He's not. He doesn't know what to do with it.
This Batman is not a worldly Batman.
No.
He doesn't know what he's doing, the poor man.
Yeah.
And you can see him just struggling with this new information. Like he spent his life on, vengeance.
Yes.
And he's completely...
When was the last time he got laid?
No.
It's been a long time.
He's not prioritized that part of his life.
Plus his suit's too tight, so it's really uncomfortable downstairs every time she gets close to him.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't factor that into the design.
He didn't factor that into the design.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Back on the film noir for a second.
Yes, please.
Because it does remind me of that I couldn't shake, and that is Blade Runner.
Ah, okay.
The Ridley Scott Blade Runner more than the Villeneuve Blade Runner.
I haven't seen that one. You said the second one.
Really?
No, disgustingly.
Wow.
What did we see of Villeneuve?
We saw Dune recently.
Dune, of course. No, I haven't seen Blade Runner.
There you go. But the world, the vehicles, the characters, the humans, the sort of underbelly, all of that, I just was like, okay, we've got film noir, we've got Seven, we've got Blade Runner. What else is on the mood board? But I felt like those three things were big themes. Oh, Nolan, of course.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I think the cinematographer is the same cinematographer that was on Dune.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we can cut this out if I'm wrong.
He's an Aussie. Greg Fraser.
Yeah, he's an Aussie. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope I'm right, but I read
amazing.
I read somewhere that was the case, and if that's the case, well, if it's not the case, firstly, forgive me.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm not an expert at these things. But if it is the case,
looking that shit right up. Right.
You are.
Yeah,
okay.
Right now.
You've got Dune, which is really starkly desert planet, bright. It's got a real vibe about it. This film, the cinematography was just superb, I thought, and the creation of this world that's always. We just had a beep.
We did. It is. Oh, it's full. We've got no more wide. That's all right. We'll just go without a wide.
Okay. The creation of this world that's always raining, that the Batman's shoes are always sodden.
Greg Fraser.
It is Greg Fraser.
He's got an I in his name, so I want to say Grieg, but I don't know if that's how he pronounces it.
Wow, Grieg.
It's either Greg or Grieg Fraser.
Well, it could be like the Americans say, Craig.
Really?
Greg.
Oh. Yeah, could be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rightus. Greg. Rightus.
He's at the top of his game right now.
No, he's great.
Everybody wants to work with him. He's amazing. He's killing
I think we want
since
him on
Rogue One. Since what happened before Rogue One? Did he do Lion? He did Lion. Yeah, he's been killing it.
He's notching him up. I think if he's an Aussie, we want him on our show. Mm-hmm. We'll get him.
There you go.
In a couple of years.
One day.
One day. But, imagine doing Dune and then doing Batman. They're polar opposites, But the feeling of this wet, just ugly, boot-sodden environment of Gotham. Every time Batman gets out of his car, you can feel the squelch of his shoes, and you think, how do you work in these conditions, mate? It's not superhero stuff. It's like a real world.
Absolutely.
Situation. Do you know what I wanted to raise?
No.
Well, the fact that our guy behind the scene, the Maestro, is not here today.
Yeah.
That saddens me.
It does sadden me too.
Because it means that the editing is going to be harder because he normally does this sort of stuff on the fly.
And we just lost our wide.
shot. So
So it got even harder again.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So the Maestro's not here, but we have had a segment called The Moment with Moment with Maestro.
Yes. Oh, shame.
It's my favourite segment of the show because it means we get to relax and just listen to what the Maestro says.
Do you want us to imagine what he would say?
Well, I just wondered if we could, say our own moments.
Okay. Moments.
Yeah.
Our own. So I think you must start.
I think I have to start what you think about it. Yeah. And if you don't think of one, that's forgivable.
Yeah.
But I've got a moment. And that is the moment when he's on the Batman is on the roof of some building.
Oh, yes. It's great.
And
moment.
he's clearly about to jump off, and we don't know what mechanism, he has in mind to survive this jumping off the building. But he's scared. He's not sure if he wants to do it.
Yeah.
And that's a real human moment, and I really felt for him there. And he jumped off. He did it, and it felt like it was the first time he was testing this crazy stuff that he had. Like he sort of puffed up like a puffer fish and just sort of glided like a bat.
Yep,
actually like a bat, and it was. And he ended up sort of hitting a bridge and hurting himself, but he still did it, and power to him because he was nervous about it.
Legitimately scary, and he almost like wings a building on the way through as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my moment in honor of the Maestro who's not here.
That's a great moment. I'm just trying to think what the Maestro would say would be his moment.
Perhaps we can ask him next episode.
Yeah, I think we might have to. Look, for me, anything with Totoro in it is great, and I just so loved seeing him as a mob boss in this. It was just so much fun.
He's solid, isn't he? He's just like he didn't steal the show or anything, but he played his part and he played it well, and you believe the character.
Yeah,
like, you forget any other role he's played, and you're with him there.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, that's cool. I wish Maestro was here with his moment. Have you got any last things you want to say about the film?
Let's see. Do I have any last reminds me of? I do have. I've got a couple of quickies.
Okay.
The Wrestler. Now, the Wrestler with Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
There were just a few shots of this film where you see the Batman from behind, and you see from his perspective, usually like walking through the streets, Tom Cruise style, but the shot was very Wrestler. I really remember those shots of the Wrestler, just with the camera. You see the back of his head walking down corridors and stuff.
You know what? That was a real look. There was a real look to that film, and yes, I on the mood board there had to be one of those low from behind shots with the big kind of shoulders filling the frame.
Yes.
That feels like the weight of the world is on that person's shoulders as they walk down a hallway. Like that was in this film for sure.
That's exactly the vibe I was reminded of. It was the weight of it. So it was less a cinema device and more a character building thing. Yeah. That it was just you felt that this Batman had, the weight on him, just like Mickey Rourke had in that film.
Great.
And the last one is Rear Window, which I'm sure we've mentioned in other films, in relation to other films. The opening of this film, that very much bought into the detective type of stuff,
Right.
was for some time all about looking at stuff happening through windows, and his backstory was presented through other apartments across the way.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's that wonderful opening shot that Hitchcock did. I mean, I think we talked about this. That whole set was built, right? But
yeah, fascinating.
There's this wonderful shot right at the start where you're looking through a window at all the other apartments on the other side of the courtyard, and it's so effective. And you're right, this film starts with that. It's a great moment too, because you've got the Riddler's heavy breathing the whole time as well.
I don't even remember that.
He's breathing. It's like it's uncomfortable, and you can tell you can see the chain of movements. It's like, here are the people. There's the skylight that I'm going to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. That was a great moment.
And early in the film, I think it was it really set the scene and the point of difference to all the other Batmen that have existed before.
Because it was a long shot too. It was a long shot. It was sort of like this weird point of view thing with heavy breathing over it, and it's raining and it's gritty. Yeah, it was good. Gets you into the film.
It does.
Yeah.
And it shows him as a detective, as a noir character, as all these things which are important to establish, because given our prejudice that we thought, okay, what's going to be different about this crap?
Yeah.
To set it early, what is different is important, and that I would say that's what gave us a lot of goodwill to sit through the rest.
I agree. It's those moments early on where you're like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This film has lots of points of difference straight away. I've got two last things that just popped into my head while I was watching it. I didn't really want to mention them here, but now that we're talking, I will, because I just don't know why they're there. I haven't seen the film for a while. Well, The Bone Collector. Did you see that film?
Oh, I think I have, but I think it may have been forgettable.
It is forgettable on some level. I'd have to see it again, but there was something about...
Is that Angelina Jolie?
Yeah, and Denzel Washington, I think.
Denzel. I think I'm Denzel'd out after Macbeth.
After Macbeth. But there was something about the kind of... It had a sort of orangey, gritty kind of grade to it that it made it pop into my head a couple of times while I was watching this. But I haven't seen the film for a long time.
So did the grade stand out to you?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It's almost monochromatic at times, but it's like an orangey, browny, kind of dirty monochromatic vibe, which suits the film.
Yeah,
it works, and it works for the world.
I'm not sure I'm filmic enough to have picked that up, but the vibe I certainly picked up.
Anyway, that's a non reminds me of, really.
Well, the only other thing I'd mention as far as jumping the shark is the fact that the Batman always seems to have a little UV sort of light on him. He seems to have whatever he needs at the time.
He does, yeah. He has whatever he needs.
But a UV light that he just... whenever there's some riddle to be solved,
true.
The answer seems to be shine the UV light on it and it will display.
That's true.
Which is a bit similar actually to Uncharted. Remember that was all about riddles and burning the
yeah, you're right.
Showing the lighter to the invisible ink.
The invisible ink with a bit of heat. Yeah.
So cool. I think we've got a through line in some of our films that we've been reviewing.
There you go. Yeah, it's a good call. I mean, I guess if you're solving crimes, UV light's useful. Is it UV light? What's blue light? Whatever they look for blood and semen with, that light.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think
it's good to have on you.
Down a rabbit hole for no reason. I think that's all I've got.
That's it, man. I think we've covered it. There's loads more to talk about, but we're tapped out.
Yep. I love this though. I give this a solid
thumbs up.
I was going to give it a number. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I know we don't do that, but I really, really enjoyed it. 3 hours is a lot, but it got me.
I agree. I want to see it again.
Last thing.
Yeah.
I know we've finished. another reminds me of is Joker.
Yes. Great call. That has to be said. You're right.
And the reason
does this film exist without Joker in quite the same way that it is here? Like, I think it's an influence.
Well, I think it's almost a missed opportunity because it feels like it could exist in the same world as Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So
yes,
it's almost a shame that, like, he's so splendid, Joaquin. It's a shame that we haven't just merged the two. As much as you love your new Joker, it's the same grittiness, the same realness. I almost wish we were further exploring that universe. But
it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Okay. It's too late for interesting ideas, so.
Yeah, I'll just take that away with us. Think about.
Okay. Well, until next time, which I don't know what we're reviewing next time, but
I don't think we have a plan yet.
It's bound to be a ripper.
Yes.
And we'll have the Maestro back.
Yes, we will. All right. See you next time, Doc.
See you, Baron.
See ya.